Good day, lovely souls. Welcome to Living a You-Filled Life podcast. I'm your host, Fola Veritas, and to those listening in for the first time, I'm so excited that you're here to take part in shifting your life into a place of empowerment and fulfillment. And to all you who are familiar with the podcast, thank you so much for your commitment to stepping into your power and coming back with such dedication to live the life that you truly desire. So glad that you guys are listening in today. And I wanted to talk a bit about purging. I don't know why when I hear the word purge, I think of like a Destiny Child song. Seriously, I think it's because of the whole like letting go of things that no longer serve you and that maybe include relationships and things that especially as women we've held on to in life out of fear of letting go and stepping into that great unknown. So ultimately that's our power, right? But I did grow up listening to Destiny's Child, so shout out to all those single ladies. But I should have taken more practical advice probably from some of their tunes. Can you pay my bills? Huh? No. Anyways, live and learn, I guess, right? So yeah, when I hear the word purge, like I wonder too, what comes to mind for you? Maybe you think of lovely Marie Kondo and her method of organizing and getting rid of life's material possessions that aren't bringing any joy to your life. Maybe it's about cutting out unhealthy relationships that you've been holding on to for dear life. Or maybe it's that creepy movie by the same name. What is it? The Purge? I don't know. I never saw that, and I probably won't. But I mean, I guess that could be a super intense way to remove unnecessary things from your life. And sometimes you may have to cut, people and things, ideas from your life in a very sudden or intense sort of way. But obviously, please do not hurt anyone physically. I do not encourage that at all. We are love, light-filled people here, and I do believe karma finds its way back around. So just remember that. But whatever you need to do to complete a cycle, do it just from a place of highest vibe, that love that's coming and resides inside of you. Okay. So I wanted to talk about purging because this has been a huge theme in my life. And now that stepping into October and coming to the like last stages of 2019, I just feel it's super important that we be okay with letting go of those pieces that we've been holding on to, pieces that we've identified so strongly with. Because if there's one thing that's for sure, and I think I've said it many times before, is that change is the only constant. So we have to be okay with that, right? And sometimes that means we have to intentionally let go of things, even though sometimes those things are taken from us. We hear of people who find out their spouse wants to end a relationship, or all of a sudden you're let go from your job, things like that. Like sometimes it seems like it's out of your control. It's like really this is sort of the process of how the universe has it out for your life, right? Is looking out for you, even though maybe you can't see it in the moment as being of benefit. And it's not saying that it's easy to have these things taken from us because there's definitely going to be emotion around it. There's going to be a loss. And so you could potentially be grieving, right? Just like the loss of a loved one. Um, it's okay. And like, I do think it's important that we talk about it and figure out ways in which we can kind of cope a bit better with when we have to let go of things. So, I mean, obviously, where should I begin? Because this is a pretty big topic, and I just wanted to highlight with you guys a bit about, my personal experience with this. And I'll be honest, like, if you could see my life, I think you'd be a little surprised. Many people are telling me how I'm so calm and all that fun stuff, but I mean, maybe I am, but sometimes I really wonder why people think that because the inside doesn't necessarily always show that. Um, Especially over these past couple months, is that's how I've been feeling. So the purging I've had to endure over these last few months has just been really intense, and I am really grateful for it. But it can be also very challenging at times, and I just thought I would share a bit about that. So, like, first off, just going into a bit about the material aspects of life. those possessions that we have. This one seems to be, I guess, ironically, like the easiest piece for me. Um, I've been cutting out, getting rid of like old clothes, old things that I've had in my closet. Speaking of bills, Destiny's Child, I was going through old like letters and bills that have been collecting over the last several years, it seems. And I just finally just shredded them all. And, I think I had like 3 to 4 shredding parties, if I can call it that, with my daughter over the last several months. And I'll be honest, it's kind of fun letting her do help with that. So, I mean, remember, even though maybe it seems you're going through a lot of loss and letting go, and like you don't have to do it alone. You can bring your family or a friend or a coach, someone to kind of encourage you along the way. Maybe take part in that experience so that you know you're not alone, just to give you that support. And also, obviously, we have our Facebook group. If you think it helps to maybe like post a picture of you getting rid of stuff or whatever, like I'd love to see it. I'm sure everyone else in the group would love to see how you're doing that physical purging in your life, because there is so much power with letting go of the old. And I think I've mentioned this before in some of my writings, but it's really important that you remember when you let go of something, you're creating a space or a vacuum for something else, right? And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to give away to receive again, right? But it's just about letting go of something that is like an older vibration of you, like the old you, right? And remember that you've changed so much, my dears, over the last year, even. Like, if you really look at how your life has progressed in just this short period of time, like 2019, you will see that you are no longer the same person that you were stepping in January, right? So let your surroundings reflect that beautiful change and be willing to let go of what no longer serves you, And so even the items around you, your clothing, and like for myself, I'd had on a vision board about wanting all these new clothes. Like I just something because I feel like I would always wear the same thing. And so I've had to like purge my closet a few times of things that I thought I was still like interested in that brought me that joy, but I let them go. I cleared out the drawers. I just created more space and like let things be less cluttered. And it's interesting to see how then like new clothes have found their way to me with like people gifting me clothing, or just me feeling like this urge to then go shopping and like not spending excessive amounts and like exponentially increasing the amount of clothes I have again, but just like a couple pieces of new clothing and then just feeling that shift inside and realizing, how much more that resonates with me and my current state, right? Or even better yet, how it's like putting me to the place that I want to be. Like I have a vision for my like personality and the characteristics or qualities that I envision myself to have. And so I'm slowly seeing how like, hey, like I am becoming more and more of that like picture of like the ideal me, if that makes sense. While still like, not that I'm like striving to like reach it and that it's in this like future state, because I believe like it's in the present moment, but I'm just slowly like drawing more and more things into myself. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so whatever that could be for you, it's clothing, maybe a dinky car, your items in your house. You still haven't unpacked since you moved into the house however many years ago. Just check in with what happiness you're receiving from it and decide if it really resonates with who you are aiming to become and living your life to be. And if it's not, let it go. And there's so many people who'd be willing to and happy to take your stuff, post it online for free, make money off it if you need some extra cash. What a great way to do that. Or take it to like a local shelter or thrift shop where you know someone could really use it. So I encourage you to do that for your material stuff. Next, I'd like to talk a bit about the whole view of shifting from and letting go of your mindset. So since August, I'd gone to my shamanic week long, like where we do a bunch of ceremonies and that as part of like a year end for the program I'm in. And that was a very intense period of time. And a lot of it was about like purging limiting beliefs and the ideas in my mind, fears of security and not enoughness, and whether I can move forward in life with success and creating space for all you lovely souls like yourselves, right? Um, all these things that came to the surface of my consciousness, like they just came with a vengeance. And I'm still progressing through. I like let go of a lot of stuff then, but I can see that obviously, as always, we're like that metaphorical onion. It's just continually being layer pulled back after layer, and I don't know if it ever ends, to be honest. But it's just like you get deeper and deeper into some parts, but it's not that it becomes harder. Like in a sense, it becomes easier because you just become more aware of it. Um, but definitely, like being aware and understanding you have to purge things so that you can clear your mind and allow more of that awesome and like goodness to just fall into place. It's really quite powerful to know that you have the ability to do that if you set your intention to. But for me, like purging my mindset around the business and success that I desire, um, it's like all these things are put into place for me. Like recently completed the 6-week course with Kelly Dawn, and it was all about stepping into like the best mindset for success within my business and creating content and all that fun stuff. But it really made me realize that, like, hey, I still have a lot of fears around success and around failure, all these things that I'm like, oh God, like when is this gonna stop, frick? But clearing those, and then me just becoming okay with the fact that, hey, the universe is watching out for me. It's going to provide all the tools necessary when it's time for me to use them. Like, one thing about the fear of success is seeing some of these like super big Facebook groups where there's like thousands or hundreds of comments on posts. And I was like, how the heck is anyone supposed to review all those comments as like the admin? And I like, then I would get scared, like, well, I don't want to be that big or whatever the case might be. But it's like, okay, you don't need to worry about that stuff. Like, don't let those things be a hindrance to like my success. Just allow the universe, trust the universe that whatever comes up, you'll be able to manage it when the time is needed to, right? So, um, that means that you might have to also just be okay with the feelings that come up of like any fears and just sit with them, you know? And I can't stress that enough. I feel like I know I'm not here to fix people, even though sometimes it's like my mind wants to be like, help everybody. But we aren't here to just be fixed. Like we are perfect the way we are. And we just to be okay with how we are in the present time and in that present moment. And trust that we are progressing the way that is in the highest interest for us, right? And that it's okay to go through certain things that we're going through. So that then leads me into the next sort of topic about releasing or purging those parts of us with in relation to our jobs or careers. So, to those of you who don't know yet, I did resign from my day job. So that's been fun. Um, I've been fully like stepping more into the passion of the coaching and the energy work, all that spiritual guidance, like the stuff that really just inside causes this like flame of, you know? And it only took me like how many damn months to step away, but I mean, I did it eventually. So I do feel it's in line with everything that I'm seeking to do. And, this is by no means saying that you should quit your day job. Okay, my friends, like be smart about it. It's not for everyone just to up and leave something. Like, and listening to a lot of people as I tried to make my decision was to make sure you're making a smart one. So hopefully I'm making a smart one. But again, trusting the universe to provide and that this was really what I needed to do. Um, and a lot of people don't need to leave their jobs because they're already doing the most amazing thing that they want to be doing. So I commend you, and I am totally looking forward to allowing like my passion and the things that I really want to do to just really shine forth for me. So, yeah, for myself, I mean, I realized it was time to let go from this job. And I'm going to do like a bit more in-depth podcast or something on this topic in the near future, but I just wanted to kind of settle still and sink into probably my mind. But I did realize over the last several weeks prior to giving my notice of stepping down was that I had so much of my identity like tied into my job and this place that I worked at. And I'd been with this team for over 8 years, like so like in most of my career, like really, right? So saying goodbye that to them was like saying a huge goodbye to like this part of me. And that shit's hard, right? Like I was going through that proverbial ego death, in my opinion, not the LSD type, but like this was really what that was. It's like the ego was just like, no, like don't let go of this. Don't let go. Like, what are you? Who are you then if you let go of this? But so there was a lot of fear around that, like who's Fola without her job, and what are you gonna do without that, right? Um, and not knowing what my life would be like without that job. That's like a huge part. It's like, wow, I was really holding on. But honestly, we put so much of ourselves into our work and our careers. It's kind of scary. Um, and I guess, can we blame anyone when that's how we've been raised and it's pushed on us in school with career counselors and all these things, right? Like, I think it's good to have paths and plans, but not to put our self-worth into that job, right? So I was like thinking, like, no wonder people who retire after 30 years of working in the same place or whatever, then they leave the job and like go into like some type of shock. Like, anyway, let's just pray that that doesn't happen to us, that as these generations get older, we step more into our passions and we're doing the things that we love every day and not just waiting until we're done our job working, right? So for me, I knew it was the right time. My soul was screaming inside that it's like, as I sat at my desk, most days it's like, get the fuck out. Like, even though I didn't really know what that was going to look like, but things just came together um, every day as I progressed through, and it made my decision a lot easier. And it like helped me to see that the times I felt the most joy at work were when I was mixing in like my spiritual understandings and helping empower those who came to me with some issues that they were going through, like personal issues. And I would just wonder, like, why is this happening, right? But it just really helped to secure like or solidify those thoughts in my mind about what I need to do. And so I came up with a plan and decided to just do what I need to do, walk away. And so I'll be working with people one on one and doing some more group work, group led activities with people, like workshops. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. Um, until then, like, I do think for yourselves, lovely listeners, that perhaps it makes sense to begin to just create that space in your life for other opportunities that you think you would like, whether that's starting your own business or changing your career path. Have a conversation with yourself, be honest. Have a conversation with your employer. Maybe it's time to like reduce the amount of hours you're working if you think you can manage that, like financially and all that. Make sure you're checking into all those things and just ask. Like, I love that so much. It's like, ask and you shall receive. Or, as my wonderful Auntie Patty would say, it's like, just ask. People will say yes or no. Like, really, what's the risk there, right? If they say no, you're just in the same space you were in, and then you can decide what you want to do next. If they say yes, then great. You got exactly what you wanted, right? So I think you have to like at least step out into that path, right? And just trust that you're doing what your soul is wanting you to do. There's no right or wrong, and you will be in a way better place if you can speak your truth. So speaking truth can mean a lot of different things for people, and I think it's like a great segue into then the fourth part of purging, which is around the relationship piece. And I don't know, maybe this is the most challenging one. I mean, really, we can sometimes become so reliant on others that we form relationships with. And, of course, we're human beings, so we thrive when we're connected, right, to others, and when we have that supportive community. So the main word there, though, let me add, is supportive, right? So surround yourself with people who support you, not people who are putting you down or questioning everything you're doing, right? Like, why would you want to be around people who don't support you? And that includes even just, maybe you can't get rid of everyone, right, who's not supportive in your life. Not saying that you should necessarily, but you can learn to create some boundaries with those people, right? Um, Obviously, make sure you're safe. So don't, if you can, try not to stay in like really threatening, physically threatening, emotionally abusive relationships. If you need support with that, please reach out to myself or your local like safe shelter or support for people who are going through abusive relationships, because you're definitely not alone. Just want you to know that. But, like you also can learn and the skills to how to say no and set those boundaries for yourself. And I think this is really important for women, like especially if we have mothers listening to this, it can be hard to say no, especially when people are like, "What? You can't say no to your kids. You got to do everything for your kids, right?" But trust me, like when you start taking care of yourself first and you show yourself that self-love by setting boundaries, especially, your kids will thank you in the future. Like maybe they're not going to understand it when they're little, like running around. I know my daughter probably has no idea, but at least I can teach her to realize like, hey, it's important to set boundaries and it's okay to set boundaries. Like my mom did that and she still provided the best way she could for me, and just trust that you'll know when it's appropriate to set boundaries or not, right? And it can be hard at first because everyone's always telling you you're being selfish or whatever the case might be, right? But please, like, that's not an excuse um, for you to not take care of yourself. You should be taking care of yourself. And it's also not an excuse for you to mistreat or abandon children, obviously, because they're dependent on you. But you need to find a nice balance between the two, right? And you have to do you, but also remember that, you have this responsibility to create the best life that you can for you and your children, whatever that might look like. So, as parents or with your spouse, your partner, it's important to set boundaries. And in terms of like other relationships outside of that, like friendships, it had me thinking because I had a situation over the summer months with a good friend of mine where I really struggled to show up for her. And, it's not like this had been the first time either. I feel like we'd had these sort of kind of conversations before. It's just something I'm personally working through. But was starting to think like maybe things have just really changed between us, like, and I guess we always think we have to have like a friendship and it always has to stay like in this tight knit like friendship space all the time, right? But it's definitely not the case. So, I'd kind of just shut down with this person. We didn't talk for most of the summer. And then I'd thought, like, hey, I can't just like let this be in this unknown space. So I reached out and we finally did speak. And it was really good to hear, like, from her perception of things that had happened, and for her to hear from me. And even though it was kind of uncomfortable and I was scared of like what the heck's going to happen with this conversation, I found it fascinating to see that like we'd both like had this time to kind of split away from each other and had worked through our own like stuff, right? And the energy between us was different. Like her life had shifted completely to a better place based on like her life situation, changing jobs, all this stuff. And I was given the opportunity then to like apologize for just kind of my lack of showing up when she needed me. And she like shared that just this like love that she has for me and that she was proud of me for like doing the things I needed to do, but and that she was kind of like surprised that I thought this had been so much more negative between us than it was. Like that's Fola's perception of things sometimes. Um, but yeah, like it worked out in the end, right? And so I guess it was kind of a matter of like just, stepping into that fear of the unknown. And it might surprise you, right? So we didn't have to end our relationship at all or whatever you want to call it. We just allowed things to move naturally without any attachment to an outcome. And, I feel like this can be really powerful because sometimes we keep these relationships going with people. And I just find it really fascinating because this has kind of been happening more and more. And also with my like intimate relationship with my partner, David, where some things had been coming up for me, which I think is in relation to my seeing a naturopath. So it's just working through like stuff that's within me, right? Emotionally, physically, all this stuff. But I was just like feeling so defeated and I didn't really know what to do. I'm like, oh, like, I don't know. Do I just end this relationship because maybe I can't like fulfill what all the things that need to be fulfilled? And um, one night, like, um, I was purging some waterworks, if I want to call it that. I realized I was like holding on to our relationship and was just having like a lot of fear about losing it. Like, well, what happens if I lose this? What does that mean? Like, you know, just the connection that we have, things like that. It was just really kind of scary. I noticed there was a lot of attachment, and it's not like this hasn't happened on and off over the last couple of years that we've been together, but at that point I was just like, oh God, like universe, what are you telling me to do? Do I need to like let go of this guy too? Like enough is enough. How many things do I have to let go of before I can step into the next chapter, right? Like, dare I open my ears, my spiritual ears, like hear the answer to that? Because I didn't really think I would be able to do it. And like, in my opinion, that's not necessarily the best way to like end a relationship. So based on like, oh, I feel like this is just what needs to happen. But it took some courage for me to like share what was kind of going on. And because I was worried, like, what does this mean? He could like totally be like, well, that's stupid and just want to end it. But, I did share with him kind of what I was feeling. And um, in the end, like us having a pretty good, like, well, some at one point or a couple points heated phone conversation, um, I was able to like share what needed to really be shared, and some like deep wounds and wounds around like my needs since I was a child. Actually, they like were healed in this conversation. It was very fascinating when I think about it. Um, but I did learn that if I'm willing to let go of even that attachment to this like relationship with this man that I have such a strong connection with, that, things would be okay. And he was all right with allowing me the space to feel that way, even though I'm sure he had his own fears come up and vulnerabilities about being okay with that, right? No restrictions. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Like, it's definitely not all rainbows and sunshine, right? And I have lost some relationships on the way because of my inability to understand or be willing to really open up, um, or to like be there for some people, or just because it just wasn't what needed to be at the time. We just no longer were in like alignment or in resonance with each other and where we were in life. And I definitely feel that in the workplace that I was in, where I could just tell there was like this some disconnect between myself and some colleagues, potentially because of the role I was in, right? Um, but then there were other people that I met along the way within my work where there were new relationships being made. So again, that give and take and the vacuum being created, making the space for the new, right? So I'm excited to see where those new relationships go and to see how the old relationships maybe shift based on now where I'm at in my life. So really what it comes down to is just to really be open and honest with yourself and to all those people around you, right? And I encourage you to do a little bit of an investigation on your life, where you're at right now. Write out those relationships or those things that you're holding on to and see where it is you need to let go, right? Purge what you need to purge and just trust that with letting go of some of those things, you will make room for that next sort of version or next level of your life, right? And ensure that you feel safe to have the conversations that you need to have with those people, and just be willing to be you and live that you filled life that you desire. Because really, like, just one, like, being able to do that, like, fill you up with all the love, the passion, the light, right? And live this life where you're really doing the things that you love and you're letting joy just like really emanate from you wherever you go. I think that's the true essence of us as humans. That's what we want so much. So I look forward to hearing from you about how you're finding this process of purging. And if you need some support, let us know. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to join our Facebook community over at Living a You-Filled Life. And there are many awesome, like minded souls who are on their journey of stepping more into their power there. And we're in it together. So let's utilize this support and this connection that we have. But let us know how it's going. And definitely, I send you love and light as you continue to progress into the amazingness that you are. So until the next time, I will let you go. Okay, bye.